Welcome back, everybody. It's Santina Doyle from Solo Female Van Life Lessons, back with another lesson about car camping. And today what I want to talk to you about is what to do when you come back from your car camping event. There are a lot of things that are very important to do, some right away, the night that you arrive back, some the day after. And so I want to go over what I do to give you some ideas of what you might want to do as well. Now, unfortunately, I shot this video before, but when I used the video, not in selfie mode like I am now, but in using the front camera of my phone, it changed the orientation of the picture so that it was vertical or portrait, and I didn't want to post the video on YouTube. So I'm going to try to show you in selfie mode all of the stuff that I had in my car this last car camping trip, and hopefully this won't change into portrait mode. So there's half of my stuff. And then here, hard to do, is the other half of the stuff that I'll be talking about today. So it's a jumbled mess. So as you have noticed, I just threw all of my stuff on my kitchen floor. But I didn't unload my car that first night when I arrived home. And by the way, Glenn, if you're watching, I'm wearing my Havre de Grace lighthouse shirt. So I only brought in a few things from my car because I was tired, it was late at night, and I make this a regular habit. I don't unpack my car the night I arrive. But there are a couple of things that I do bring in first thing, like literally the first thing I bring in is my cooler. Now this is a coronavirus vaccine cooler that my friend Heidi gave me, and it's great because it's got extra thick walls. So it keeps things really cold. And she taught me to freeze 4 of these bottles. It's these plain, what are they, 16 ounce, 16.9 ounce water bottles. I freeze 4 of these and put 1 in each corner. I do use a bag as a liner so that if it does, the bottles do sweat or the condensation on them sweats and it doesn't get the cooler itself wet. So you can see it's getting quite beat up because I've been using it a lot. And so of course I bring that in because number one, I want to save the food, and I put the food directly into the fridge or the freezer as the case may be. And number two, I don't want to tempt any animals to get into my car overnight. And then I do the same thing with my kitchen bag. Oh, what a mess. I know you can't really see in, but nothing is as orderly as it was when it left with me. And I have things in here that I definitely need to take care of later. I don't need to take care of them like I do the cooler right away, but I just bring them in because they have food residue on them and I don't want the animals or bugs to get into my car and crawl around on the food. So things like the coffee mug that I drink out of. Now I don't drink cream or sugar, but it's still got coffee. You can smell it. So who knows, they might be attracted to that. The fork and knife set that my friend Mickey gave me, and I just eat off of these and then wipe them off with a paper towel. When I'm camping, I don't actually wash them with soap and water. It's just me eating off of them. And then I have a plastic bag in here, so I stick the dirty ones in the plastic bag so they don't get this nice cover dirty. And then I will wash them when I come home. Again, not the night that I arrive. I'm usually too tired, but close to, soon after. And then I've got a coffee pot in here that's full of coffee. I dumped out the coffee grounds, but it still could use a good cleaning. And I do have a couple of other things, like the mug that I drove and drank tea in that morning. I left at 4 in the morning, our last camping trip. And so again, I don't drink cream or sugar in it, but just the fact that it had some kind of food in it, I like to wash it up. And I do have other pots and pans. I didn't use them this camping trip, but obviously if I had any food in them, I'd probably put them in the sink to soak. So anything food related you want to clean up right away, like the next day, bring it into your house, clean up the next day. It's only the food that needs to be refrigerated or that you want to freeze to preserve that I would deal with the night that you come in. most of the other stuff can really wait to be brought in. Like for instance, I know you can't see it, I apologize, but the water, my Lucy light, the screen door that I have for camping in the heat. I have, let's see if this will change the orientation, I hope not. I have the wood that my friend Sharon gave me to help start fires. It's kindling. I think I already said my water bottles, my hiking boots, my chair. I only brought it in because I'm going to put it back in its bag and then throw it back in my car. I always keep a car in my chair in case I go to a park. This is not really a fire starter. It's just a box of lint for starting fires. And then I have all of my other gear, some loose clothes that I just pulled out of the car. They were just hanging out loose. My sleeping bag comforter, my camp pad. It's really hard to point when you're using a camera in selfie mode. And then here's something that I do try to address when I get in. Right after the cooler, I will dump my Camel. And that's because I don't want the water in there, which may have some bacteria in it, to kind of fester in there. So what I do is I dump all the water, including I make sure that I clean out the hose and the, I don't know what this is called, the mouthpiece. And then I make sure I drain all of that and let it air dry. So that's something else I take care of, usually the night that I come home, maybe the next morning. And then I've got my luggage, and this is my food, my dry food bag, which it's still got dry food in it. I haven't emptied it out yet. And there's no harm in it being just sitting here in my kitchen. But when it comes to my clothing bag, of course, I'm going to wash these up in the laundry. But one of the most important things that you don't want to forget is if you took any medication while you were on your camping trip, you want to make sure that you replenish this. And the same goes for if you used up your little bottle of shampoo or deodorant or anything that you brought, you want to make sure that you replenish it right away, especially anything to do with medications or your first aid kit. Now, what I do recommend is that if you are taking prescription medication, you don't necessarily want to keep that in your DOP kit or your first aid kit or the stuff that you take camping, because you're going to need that, obviously. And so I always remove any prescription medication and put it back where I normally keep it so that I remember to take it. And it's on my list for taking when I go camping, and you know my infamous list that I keep in my luggage. So I know I'll always remember to take it with me. It's just remembering to take it out and putting it back in its appropriate place that is a little bit more difficult for me. But if I do that, then I look through my DOP kit and I can see what I might have used or needs to be refilled. Hand sanitizer is a good example of what you might want to refill. I keep a hand sanitizer in my Camel, and every time I come back from an event, I've used a lot of it because of coronavirus, and so I do refill that. Everything else pretty much can wait until it's convenient, whether that's the next day or that next weekend or whenever. But the next thing I would recommend to you is that you have a place for all of your camping gear and you keep it all together, because it's much easier to pack from one section of storage than to run all over the house and try to find things in different places. So I keep all of my stuff in my laundry room, and it's all together, whether it's my cooler, my wood, my water, my kitchen, my sleeping bag, and my Camel. My luggage does stay in my closet, but the dry goods cooler, the cooler that I use for not cooling, for just dry food, I keep that all in my laundry room in one place, all lumped together. So it's really easy to pack my car. Plus, that's the way that I come in from the driveway. So it's right there to pack my car. So let's see, anything else I wanted to say? Obviously, I'm going to be washing up my clothes. There can be little critters that can get in, especially since I do carry a lot of firewood. This last event, I picked up a load of wood and just threw it on top of an old plastic shower curtain, which is what I use to cover the wood while we're at the campsite in case it does rain. It's really filthy too. But I threw this on top of my sleeping bag because my sleeping bag was all laid out for sleeping. And then I loaded a bunch of wood on top of this so that the wood slivers wouldn't get into my sleeping bag. But you never know what kind of critters you're bringing in when you're bringing in wood. And so I will definitely be taking care of washing any clothing that I brought that they might have crawled into in my suitcase, making sure nothing's in my shoes. But then you might also want to hang out your sleeping bag. I don't personally wash my sleeping bag because I find that when you do the batting, the white fluffy stuff inside, in between the inside and outside, tends to get lumpy, and then to me that defeats the purpose of having that layer of insulation. When you have gaps in the insulation because it clumps together in places and then you have gaps around it, it tends to not insulate as well. And so I don't wash my sleeping bag. But if I have a campfire and I can't stand the smell of smoke on me, then I will hang my sleeping bag out on a nice day right after my camping trip and open it up and hang it on my railing on my deck and just let it air out. And it smells so nice and fresh the next time I go to use it. So I really like that. And that's about it. Everything goes back in its place. I deflate my camping mat and put that in its little bag. And then I'm ready for the next camping event, and everything is clean, everything is fixed. If anything broke, I'll get that fixed or I'll replace it. Everything's replenished, the shampoo, the medication, anything that I've used up, the hand sanitizer, make sure I have a mask on hand. And so I don't really have to think as much for the next camping trip. It's kind of automatic to just gather this stuff and check off my list and go. So if you have any questions about what you should take or what you should do before you go on a car camping trip, especially if it's your first, I recommend that you look at previous videos which address those subjects. But if you have any suggestions as to what you do when you come home, please leave that in the comments so that I can see what you do that I forgot to mention. And then please subscribe to this channel if you want to. In addition, if you want to go camping on the East Coast, I do have 2 meetup groups. The first is East Coast Camping, and it is co-ed. We meet Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. The second is Solo Female Van Life Adventures. We meet every other Wednesday at 7 p.m. And we do ask that you attend several of these virtual meetings before you plan to come camping with us in person. And that's for all of our safety, that we get to know you and you get to know us, and we know that we'll be a fit when we actually get out there. So I hope you enjoy your camping this summer. Happy Memorial Day, which I know has just passed. Leave a comment if you have any suggestions of videos that you would like me to do, and happy camping.